Hello! Today we are going to be drawing one of the most struggled with parts of the body for beginner artists, which is hands. I know that I struggled with hands a lot when I was a beginner artist, and now I kind of enjoy drawing them. Because once you learn the basics and you practice enough, it'll be a lot easier to figure out. Let's get started. Okay, first you're gonna want to draw a square kind of shape, like how I show here. And then I'm gonna go and kind of change the top part so it's on a bit of an angle going downwards. Now for the proportions, you're gonna want to have the size of the square doubled, and that is going to be where the top of your finger is going to be, because your fingers and your palm, or like other part of your hand, are each a half of the whole hand. Then I separate the top part into 4 sections because we've got 4 fingers on our hands, usually, not counting the thumbs. And then for the thumb, it's going to be 1/2 of our square there. So 1/4 in total is where it comes out. And I like to draw this oval kind of shape to start with, of the thumb coming out. And then I just draw the main parts of it here like this, and I just alter it a little bit because the thumb is going to be a little bit thicker than the fingers, and it also comes out of the main square a bit. Okay, so after that I mark where the top of the fingers are going to be, but you also have to remember that the fingers are not all the same length. The first 3 you could make kind of similar, but they are, if you look at your hand, not all the same length. Especially the pinky finger is going to be the smallest. So I start off with drawing the largest finger, which is the middle one. And then we've got the pointer finger, then the ring finger, and lastly the pinky finger, which you have to make sure is noticeably smaller. And then I just draw in where the creases would be, because you know how each of your fingers, where they bend, you could see just a bit of lines there. So I decided to add that as well. Next, I end up fixing up the thumb a bit because I realized it was a little bit too high up. Because really the top of the thumb should reach around half of the first finger there, or a quarter. You know where there's the crease and where it starts, it's the half of that, how you could see there. And then if you want to add more details, you can also add the creases that are in our palms. There's one that starts in between the first 2 fingers, and then there's the one that starts between the thumb and the other finger. And you can just look at your own hand to reference all of these and remember where they go if you're not sure. After that, I just add a bit of the wrist. And we're done. Next, I will show how to draw fingers, because something else that I would struggle with is drawing fingers that actually look like proper fingers and not just pieces of sausages or something. I don't know. So I'm just going to give a few tips on how to do that. So what I like to do is on one side, or like the back side, it'll always be straight lines, and then it will curve on the other side. And this also goes for if it's bending. On the outside, it's straight lines, and then it will curve inwards, like for each bend. And the middle part I usually draw as a bit more of a curve, and the rest are just slight curves. So it's a mix between the straight lines and the curvy lines, and that's what makes it more interesting. I also added the nail there, but I don't always add nails, so you don't have to do that. Another important part of learning how to draw hands is using references. Chances are, if you're drawing, you have hands, and if you do, you can use them when you're drawing. So just make a pose with your hand that you're not drawing with, and then just try replicating it. And since I can't do that exactly, because I need you guys to see it as well, I just brought in a picture I took of my hand, so that way we could all see it. And I'm going to show how I kind of like find the shapes, and then I just redraw it. So as you can see, I just do the shapes, and then also, if you like and you're just starting out, another thing that I used to do was I would add circles for where the joints are, and then that also helps you kind of figure out where that is. And then after I have finished with that, I will, now because this is mostly something that I'm just seeing in my head, like I would see the different shapes and stuff, and then I will go and draw it like what I'm seeing. So the blue lines, those are just like kind of like what I'm imagining in my head, but I just drew out to show you as like an example of how I would do it, and then I'm drawing it on my own, just looking at the reference with each part. Usually I'll start with like whatever is closer, like in the foreground first, and then whatever is behind I will do after. So that's why I started with that finger, and then I worked my way down. Another thing with hands is sometimes I will add the nails only if it's a super close-up shot and the hand is like one of the main focal points. Otherwise, I typically skip it and have them just more simple with just like the main shapes of the fingers and like the hand. Next, I'm gonna show one more pose. This one is gonna be a bit more like the back side of the hand, and it's also in a bit of a fist. Now for this one, I will draw not just a square like rectangle thing, but I'm actually making it more three-dimensional. Just because of how it's on a bit of an angle, you could see both sides of it, and it is like a 3D object. And then I will have the knuckles, and I'll draw circles for that part, and then I'm just referencing the picture. So everything that I'm explaining, like you could just look at the picture and then try recreating it, just keeping in mind the proportions to help you along. Occasionally, if I'm drawing something and I need it to be done super quickly, I will just trace over a photograph of my hand like this, but it's not a good idea to only do that because you do want to learn how to actually draw it. That's just like if you're drawing a bunch of different hands, like you're doing a comic or something, and you don't have time to figure out like a whole bunch of complex poses, then you might want to like trace over it, but I'm not going to recommend like only doing that. But it is also another way to help you learn and get better at drawing. After this, I just do one more pose, and this one I'm just kind of like freestyling it. I'm not looking at a reference, and I have the hand facing downwards. Now, for this one, I end up like changing a few things because like as you're drawing it, you might notice like something doesn't look quite right and then you can fix it. Some of these things included like typically when your hand is just resting at your side, your fingers aren't just completely touching, like usually they're spread out a little bit. So I made sure to have them not completely like all perfectly in line. Also, they usually bent a little bit. Also, I changed the thumb because it didn't look quite natural, so I did that. And that's basically it. There's definitely a lot more to drawing hands than just like watching one video. Like a good portion of learning how to draw them is practicing. Like you just keep drawing them, like dedicate a few pages to just drawing hands, and then the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it and you will feel more comfortable doing it. I hope that this video was helpful to you, at least a little bit. Sorry, I've been like very busy, so I had to really rush on this one, but I wanted to get it out today, so hopefully I can do that. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye!